भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयं उदीरयेत्। शृणुते स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवण कीर्तन हृदयदासोऽय भद्राणि विधुनोति सुरहित सतम्। नाष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भावते नष्टकी। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 19, Text 10 and 11. इति चादोक्षजेशस्य पृथोस्तु परमोदयम् असूयन् भगवान् इन्द्र प्रतिघातं चिकर्त. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. King Prithu was dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Adhokshaja. Because King Prithu performed so many sacrifices, he was superhumanly enhanced by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. King Prithu's opulence, however, could not be tolerated by the King of Heaven, Indra, who tried to impede the progress of his opulence. Purport. In this verse, there are three significant purposes expressed in the words Adhokshaja, Bhagwan Indra, and Pratoha. Maharaj Prithu is an incarnation of Vishnu, yet he is a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. Although an empowered incarnation of Lord Vishnu, he is nonetheless a living entity. As such, he must be a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although one is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is an incarnation, he should not forget his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Kali Yuga, there are many self-made incarnations, rascals, who declare themselves to be Supreme Personality of Godhead. The words Bhagwan Indra indicate that a living entity can even be as exalted and powerful as Indra. For even King Indra is an ordinary living entity in the material world and possesses the four defects of the conditioned soul. King Indra is described herein as Bhagavan, which is generally used in a reference to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this case, however, King Indra is addressed as Bhagavan because he has so much power in his hands. Despite his becoming Bhagavan, he is envious of the incarnation of God. Prithu Maharaj. The defects of the material life are so strong that due to contamination, King Indra becomes envious of an incarnation of God. We should try to understand, therefore, how a conditioned soul becomes fallen. The opulence of King Prithu was not dependent on material conditions. As described in this verse, he was great devotee of Adhokshaja. The word Adhokshaja indicates the personality of Godhead, who is beyond the expression of mind and words. However, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears before the devotee in his original form of the eternal bliss and knowledge. The devotee is allowed to see the Supreme Lord face to face, although the Lord is beyond the expression of our senses and beyond our direct perception. Text 11. Charamina Shwamedhena Yajamane Yajushpatim Venye Yagyapashum Svardhan Povaha Tirohitaha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. When Prithu Maharaj was performing the last horse sacrifice, Ashwamedha Yagya, King Indra, invisible to everyone, stole the horse intended for sacrifice. He did this because of his great envy of King Prithu. Purport. King Indra is known as a Sata Kratu, which indicates that he has performed 100 horse sacrifices or Ashwamedha Yagna. We should know, however, that the animals sacrificed in the Yajna were not killed. If the Vedic mantras were properly pronounced, During the sacrifice, the animal sacrificed would come out again with a new life. That is a test for your successful yajna. When King Prithu was performing 100 yajnas, Indra became very envious because he did not want anyone to excel him. Being an ordinary living entity, he became envious of King Prithu and making himself invisible. He stole the horse and thus impeded the yajna performance. नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Thank you, assembled Vaishnavas, for giving me this opportunity for speak for my own purification. I will summarize today's verses from the lectures given by senior devotees and purports by Srila Prabhupada. Please forgive if I add my own meaning or interpretation to this. So, in this chapter and these specific verses, the story of Prithu Maharaj was handed Ashwamedha Yajna, and then Indra becoming envious, and then he stole the horses. That story continues here. In particular, these two verses, wonderful description are given about Supreme Lord, the position of King Prithu Maharaj and Indra. So, first point here made is King Prithu. He was the empowered incarnation of Lord Vishnu. I mean, he was also devotee of the Lord, and he was empowered. Very first reason given is because he was dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and and in that dependency, when he was dependent means that he was relying on the mercy of the Supreme Lord, and by relying on mercy of the Supreme Lord, he performed sacrifices for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So, because of that, he got a mercy of the Supreme Lord, and he became empowered devotee, and he was able to do the unprecedented feat that he will see in upcoming chapters. So this is a very important lesson for us as well. We should rely on the mercy of the Supreme Lord, although we should do our work and duties we do perform. But we should also do sacrifices. And for the various sacrifices in this age of Kali is given Nam Sankirtan. So we should do as much Nam Sankirtan as possible and rely on mercy of the Lord, and our life will be fine. Now here, the Supreme Lord is described as a Adokshaja. So Prabhupada has described very nicely the different stages of knowledge. So there is one is a Pratyaksha, Paroksha, Aparoksha, Adokshaja, and Aprakrata. So one has to go step by step. So general knowledge means Pratyaksha. Whatever you perceive by the senses, that's called Pratyaksha, when you can see something or feel something. Then that is called Pratyaksha. The knowledge which is achieved by the authorities, that is called Paroksha. Then Aparoksha means a realization. Then after certain knowledge is acquired by realization, when you have a sadhana over the period of time or meditations, you have some realizations and you gain some knowledge to that. And then finally comes Adokshaja. Adokshaja means knowledge which beyond your perception. But there is a source of the knowledge, Adokshaja. Therefore, God's or Krishna's other name is Adokshaja. Adha means subduing, bring under subjection, and Adhakrita Akshaja. Akshaja means the knowledge directly perceived by the senses, and Aksha means eyes. Aksha also means Atuki. So any knowledge within the alphabets, that is called Akshaja. And the knowledge which is beyond that, that is called Adhokshaja. As beyond the Adhokshaja knowledge, there is a Aprakrita knowledge. So the Prakriti Guna, so long we are in this material world infected by material qualities, Sattva Guna, Rajaguna, Tamoguna, that is Prakriti life, Prakrita life, not Aprakrita. You have to go step by step. So our Krishna conscious is Adhokshaja, far beyond this Prakrita knowledge or Prakrita Guna. The highest position of Prakrita or material life is the standard of Brahmanical qualities. But there is also Prakrita. That is not a Prakrita. That is also not the Brahman realization. Brahma Gdanati Brahmanaha. That is also the highest stage of Prakrita or glimpse of the light. But one has to become free from the Prakrita development. Means guna, all three gunas. We need to go beyond that if you want to taste the aprakrita knowledge. Our present position is that we are infected by the gunas, three modes of material nature. Some of them are infected by sattva guna, some of them are infected by rajoguna, some of them are infected by tamoguna. So long one is infected by tamoguna and rajoguna, his position is very abominable. It's called rajas tamas. One has to become at least the sattva guna or the brahmanical qualification. Then spiritual knowledge can be realized, and that knowledge is to understand our position and our position of the Supreme Lord in relation, our position in relation to the Supreme Lord. So all that knowledge is called adhokshaja. But and then since Krishna consciousness and Krishna himself is in that category, is been described as the adhokshaja. So here, King Prithu Maharaj, this Adhokshaja word used in relation to King Prithu Maharaj because King Prithu Maharaj has gone as an empowered entity, empowered living being. He has gone beyond that three modes of material nature, and that's why he was able to understand the supreme personality of Godhead and get his mercy. This Bhagavatam is wonderful. Certain words are used in certain contexts. So when we hear from the senior devotees, then we can understand why certain words are used or why Supreme Lord is addressed by certain names in context of certain devotees. So that way we can understand the relation between that. Now here for Indra, the word is used Bhagwan Indra. And when we heard Bhag, that means opulence, and Van means one who possesses. So what is that opulence? Aishwarya, richness. One who has in this possession of all the wealth. But nobody can have except Bhagwan can claim everything or all the wealth, the supreme personality of Godhead. So all the wealth within this universe, nobody can say that it belongs to them. But Krishna can say that. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that Bhoktam Yagya Tapasham Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. I am the proprietor of all the lokas, of all the planets. We become proprietor of a few thousand of years, and there are so many difficulties. But Krishna is a proprietor of the whole universe. So here in context, compared to other living entities, Indra has many opulences. However, he's still in the envious of stage of Maharaj Prithu because he's still a living entity and he's also not free from modes of material nature. He's insecure and he wants to defend his position like any other living entity. So even if we reach highest place, if we are not fully Krishna conscious, we will always be affected by material modes of nature and will always be envious. And we have seen that even in this our world, the richest men in the world also become insecure. If someone advances in the riches and they still try to acquire more and more, However, devotee is satisfied by whatever circumstances Lord puts him and not affected by the circumstances. That empowerment comes from the devotional service, especially chanting of the holy name. We have seen examples of Maharaj Amrish and here Maharaj Prithu, who, although king of universes, they're very humble and, and therefore not affected by the envious qualities. We are in this material world because of the envy towards Krishna. Therefore, this Bhagwan, therefore this Bhagavad Dharma or Krishna consciousness is meant for the persons who are not envious. You know, so we should utilize our talent without being envious of others. As Prabhupada says, like you should do your best, but you should not be envious of others. In material life, there is simply envy of others' progress. But in spiritual life, one encourages another one. Hey, you are doing very nice. So that is Radharani. She says that, oh, here is very nice devotee. Please, Krishna, you accept him. So you also can ask, like, how you can become free of envy simply by chanting Hare Krishna. Lord Chaitanya has said that the heart will become cleansed of all dirty things accumulated in the heart by chanting. It is not that we have. It is not that we have to endeavor separately to become rid of envy or any other deficiency or impurity. In this age, chanting of Hare Krishna is recommended as the only possible method to associate with Krishna. And by also offenseless chanting, when we associate with Krishna through his holy name, then all inauspicious things are cleared up from the heart. So wherever you are, you should always go on chanting, and that itself will bring all perfection. With this, I'd like to conclude the summary. Please forgive me if I add my own meaning or interpretation to this. Hare Krishna.